The Holocaust in my family. Sosnowiec, a small Polish town. In its center, at 11 Targowa Street, there stands a house where on the ground floor was a stationery shop warehouse, belonging to the Yohimovich family. The shop was run by Henrik, born on June 5, 1870, in the town of Sosnowiec, and his wife, Mania, born in 1881 in Pilika. They had 7 children. Yoel David was born in 1899 in the town of Auschwitz. He died as a young child in 1907. Andrea Sterachana was born on April 16, 1901, in Sosnowiec. Later, she married and took the surname Ehrlich. Pinchas Moshe was born in Sosnowiec in 1903. Chaya Sarah, and likely her twin sister Minka, were born in July-August 1905 in Sosnowiec. After marriage, she would become T. Epper. The youngest, Herschel, was born on October 21, 1914, in Sosnowiec, and tragically died in December 1915, at the age of 1. The youngest daughter, Franka, was born on April 28, 1918. After marriage, she became Grossum. One of the last receipts issued by the family was dated April 4, 1939. Just before the Nazi invasion of Poland on September 1. At the time, in the late 1920s and early 1930s, life seemed to be joyful and uneventful. The family experienced typical events, such as the birth of children, weddings and funerals. There were concerts, exhibitions, Shabbat dinners, and communal celebrations at the synagogue with neighbors. One such neighbor was the Schpilman family house number 18, and their son, the future famous musician and pianist, Władysław Szpilman. Roman Polanski's famous film The Pianist was based on the diaries of Władysław Szpilman, and his story became the foundation of the movie's plot. In house number 9, for many years, the headquarters of Zionist organizations were located, striving to establish a Jewish state in historic Israel. This place was regularly visited by the young teacher and budding poet Chaim Nachman Biolik, the bard of the national state of Israel. Around 1922, Andrea Sterachana married Nathan Ehrlich from Bedzin, born on July 29, 1899. On May 7, 1923, they had a daughter, Tzvia. On June 24, 1926, they had a daughter, Unia Della. In 1932, their long-awaited son, Marek Menachem, was born. In 1937, Chaya Sarah had a daughter, Friedrika Fuchi Tepper. In the fall of 1939, the entire family was sent to the ghetto, where they were assigned various jobs. In August 1942, thousands of people selected for deportation to Auschwitz were rounded up on Targowa Street. During the so-called selection at the Sosnowiec stadiums, desperate attempts were made in houses and courtyards numbered 4 and 8 to save lives, say goodbye, flee through attics and basements, and some even took their own lives, while others miraculously survived or faced their final moments before being transported to the death camp. The Yohimovich family was sent to Auschwitz much earlier, and in May 1942, they all perished there. The site where the kiosks and stalls once stood was the location of the Great Synagogue, where the Yohimovich family used to pray. It was built between 1894 to 1896 on what was then Police Street, now renamed Deported Street, house number 16. The construction was funded by Jewish merchants from Sosnowiec. On September 9, 1939, it was blown up and burned by the occupying forces. On the same day, the synagogue in Bedzin was set on fire. Today, a commercial pavilion stands in its place. Pinchas Moshe ended up in Russia, where, by a mystical coincidence, he would disappear without a trace and die in 1942. His place of death was Kazan. Before this, he would be treating a broken arm in Bukhara and undergo a military commission. How and under what circumstances he ended up in Russia is only a matter of speculation. Perhaps he planned to reach the family of his older brother, Henek, in Novosibirsk. Henek was the brother of my great-great-grandfather, Liza Yohimovich. Franka was the only one to survive from Auschwitz, liberated by the Red Army and the Allies. The number on her arm remained as a reminder of the catastrophe she survived. Her husband, Israel Wiener, died just before the camp was liberated, either in Buchenwald or while taking part in an attack on the SS guards on April 11, 1945. During the sorting process, they were separated, and she was sent to Auschwitz, where Heritzvi Grossum helped her survive. She later married him after the war. In 1947, they arrived in Israel but returned to Munich, where Heritzvi was from. In 1948, their first daughter, Morela, was born, but she died on September 15, just 6 months old. Death seemed to follow the survivors relentlessly. They returned to Israel, and on March 1, 1953, their second daughter, Gabriela, was born. After 1963, they returned to Munich, where they stayed permanently. Franka worked as a saleswoman, and Heritzvi Hermann was involved in small business. Life wasn't wealthy, but it was happy simply because it existed. Gabriela lived an interesting life, with a career in editing both artistic and documentary films. We got to know her through the MyHeritage.com website. Almost 100 years after fate scattered the brothers Liza and Henek to different corners of the former Russian Empire, in 2016, we discovered common names in our family trees. However, the material proof that we are one family came with the discovery of identical photographs in my family album, photos that were stored but never labeled. The same photos appeared in both Munich and Novosibirsk. It's surprising and incredible, but it's a fact. We kept in touch constantly and planned to meet. We congratulated each other on holidays. When my mother Elena passed away on August 3, 2021, Gabriela supported me greatly. Unfortunately, first, the pandemic prevented us from meeting, and then on August 13, 2022, Gabriela passed away. I remember her and will surely visit Munich to honor her memory. Thank you for everything you did for me. You will live in my heart until the end of my days. This story is dedicated to the memory of my dear cousin, great-grandmother Gabriela, and all my relatives of the Yohimovich family. To my sons, David and Michael Yohimovich,